Please welcome star Vanessa Burghardt and writer, director, producer, and star Cooper Raiff. Thank you for being here, guys.
Thank you so much for having us. We were just talking about how lovely it is here. The energy in Santa Barbara is so lovely.
Well, thank you. Cooper, I was blown away by I'm watching the film and there's like 7 bar mitzvahs and each one is color-coded in a different way. And how difficult was it for you to produce 7? I mean, I'm saying 7, it might be more.
7, exactly, yeah.
7, I mean, was that? And the fact that you color-coded based on emotion, am I reading too much?
We tried to, yeah, no, we tried to show the whole arc with colors, and it was really difficult because we shot the whole thing in an abandoned mall in Pittsburgh. So some of our locations didn't want us to like, we're gonna be blue now, and it's like, well, this is a hibachi grill, so you're not gonna get that here. But we really tried to, like the production designer Celine and the DP Christina, we all 3 sat for like 8 hours one day just trying to figure out like a puzzle how we can make the emotional arc work in the way that we wanted to, but knowing that we had to shoot in a hibachi grill sometimes.
But I mean, when you were writing the script, is that something that you had?
Like the circus, for example, we knew it had to be like fiery red, and like that was like the comps we had for it were like this Paul Thomas Anderson movie that's like super red and like fiery, and that was like our big fight. And the themes I think are in line with that too, like the bar mitzvah themes.
Thank you so much for being here. One of the things that I love about your character, I'm thinking particularly the scene with your mother where she's scratching your back, and then you talk about feeding cauliflower and cucumber to Jerry. Your character, that scene is not about her situation, it's more about her character and who she is. You know, can you tell us about that scene and how you felt about it?
Well, that was, I think, the first scene I ever read when I auditioned. And the first thing that stood out to me is that, like, I read the character breakdown that she was an autistic character, but then it was a scene about her feelings instead of her traits, which I'd never seen before. Like, usually if there's an autistic character in a story, their traits are being used for some part of the story or for someone else, but this was just a scene that was about how she felt and how she experienced things, which was quite special.
Wow. And this was your first acting job, correct? Yeah. Correct. Cooper, tell us about finding Vanessa and what was the process of finding Vanessa into the role?
We were terrified that we weren't going to find the right person to play Lola, but when I saw her tape, it was one of those moments where if you're a basket case, I just broke into tears because I was so relieved and so happy to have found the person who was going to play Lola. And it was nothing, like, she's nothing like the Lola that we had written and I had written. But when I came to all the producers and Ro and Dakota, I was like, this is our girl. And they were like, but you wrote her to be 12 years old. And I just told them that we had to make it work. And so we changed the script a ton to fit Vanessa better because her audition was just, I don't know what it was about it. She was reading with her mom, and it was just like what I wanted to make a movie about, her, Vanessa.
And Vanessa, what was it like auditioning and getting the role?
Auditioning, well, that was like the first time I'd ever gotten a call back for anything. You said like by this point you knew by the 2nd time, but you didn't tell me that until like the 5th time.
She had the role like 10 seconds into me watching her tape. But you have to, other people are, it's not just my decision. So, and people always tell me that I jump the gun. So I'm like, it has to be her, and that's not smart to other people. But I knew it was you, and I think we met like 3 times, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but once we started reading together, I felt fine. Like I knew that even if I didn't get the part, that it felt good. I didn't consider the fact that I would get the part, but I didn't consider the fact that I wouldn't either. I just felt like reading with you felt like something that was productive.
I think I was trying to like beam her, like, you have the part. Know that you have the part.
Cooper, I've seen your film a couple of times, and I was struck with the fact that when people speak to one another, especially when in your scenes with Dakota, you don't express what you mean in the dialogue, in the scenes. Can you tell us about developing the script? I mean, you know what I mean. Is that people actually...
Subtext, yeah.
There's subtext, but it's all subtext, especially the scenes with Dakota. It's all subtext.
Yeah, it's a very particular relationship with Domino and Andrew that I think it's not about will they or won't they. It's like, why won't they, or what are they? They're protecting something, and I think to take one step forward is to maybe there's a chance of ruining it, and so I think they say a lot of things that they're soft stepping, I think is what Andrew says, and so I wrote that one scene to be like, he's got to get drunk and say something, because there's a lot of scenes where it was frustrating for the producers. It's like, can they say something like that tells us something? But it's this relationship where it's hard to say what you mean. And then you have the flip of that with Lola, and she really says what she means. And but yeah, it's just one of those relationships.
But like the script, what we see on screen, like the scene with the icicles.
Icicles. Yeah,
Well, I mean,
ice pops, yeah.
It was that, like, the way it played is the way you wrote it, or you guys developed it during the...
It was the way we wrote it, but I think so Dakota was playing Domino before I even wrote the script, so we kind of wrote it together almost, and we were directing it together even. It felt like we knew the feelings that Domino had and the feelings that Andrew had, and the things that we were saying were meaningful, but like there's such an underbelly, and yeah.
And the same is with the character Lola. Did you have input, Vanessa, on how the character developed?
Yeah, Cooper and I did a lot of Zooms, and I had input without really knowing that I had input. Like there was no pressure on me to like have an opinion, but I sort of seemed to have an opinion about most things, and so it made its way into the script, I think.
It did, yes.
And how did it feel for you as an actress to have so much input into how the character developed?
Well, I didn't know that I had, like I just thought we were talking, and I think if I knew that I was having input, I would have stressed out or felt overwhelmed or felt like pressured. So I think in a way it was probably better that I didn't.
Cooper, the film, why is it set in New Jersey? I know that, but I've read a little bit about you. You grew up in Dallas. And
I wanted to set it in Dallas, but the producers were like, Jews in Dallas? No way. That's literally why we set it in New Jersey. And they thought about setting it in Pittsburgh because that's where we shot it. And I wanted it to be, Dallas is it's very specific. It's got a very specific holding zone vibe. Like when you graduate and you come back, there's this antsiness that I think people who go back to New Jersey feel because they're close to New York, and like Pittsburgh is really charming, kind of like Santa Barbara. Like if you come to Santa Barbara, you're not like, it's like kind of just like, I think I just want to stay here forever. Yeah.
And so all the exteriors were shot in New Jersey, but then in Pittsburgh?
No. Everything was shot in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
but then it was pretending to be New Jersey.
Yes, yeah. You're like, what? I wish we didn't put this film in this festival. No, yeah, it's all cheated. Yeah, no.
It was amazing. And then all the sequences that you shot, the bar mitzvahs, they were all done in a mall?
Yes, literally all of them.
Can you...
Yeah, I mean, I was very upset about it, to be honest. Like, we showed up and I thought, okay, we're shooting in Pittsburgh so that we can get so much more money on screen. That was kind of what I was told. And then we got to Pittsburgh and they were like, we got to shoot at this abandoned mall. And I was like, well, we have to be in Pittsburgh and shooting at an abandoned mall? So it was unfortunate. And like I'll never forget the DP Christina, her face when she walked into I forget which bar mitzvah it was, but it was this bar mitzvah that we had in our mind as being this big venue, and it was straight up a hibachi girl. And she walked in and she looked at me like, shh, should we try to get more, should we fundraise? Like, what are we gonna do about this?
Well, watching the film, you would never know
Thank
that
you.
it's all like in one mall. Vanessa, there was one thing I wanted to ask you, is the flapping of the hands that your character does. Is that something that was in the script or you developed?
No, I just do that all day. And so Cooper asked me, because I was doing that. It's something I do. It's like an emotional regulation. I have a lot of energy. And it kind of just helps me like chill out. And it's something that I was doing right before we did the scene. And Cooper just asked me like, hey, do you want to do that in a take? And so I did, and we kept it.
And Cooper, tell us about your relationship with Dakota, who produced her production company, developed the film. You know, tell us about how that happened and your relationship with Dakota.
It's very similar to Domino and Andrew's relationship. No, it's not at all, actually. We're very sister-brother vibes. I met her when she was in Greece filming The Lost Daughter, and she was just really obsessed with the title, and she didn't want to hear anything about the character. But she was like, I'm on, we're gonna do it. And we really just developed the whole thing together. And so walking on to set, we had a rapport that, if anything, it was like almost difficult to sometimes be like, all right, now we have to be in love when we call action. But she's an amazing actress who, and I'm not like that, where I can just like say action and all of a sudden I'm like in a different world, but she really is. So she led the way a lot in terms of just transforming.
I'm actually glad you brought up the title. Your two films, he did this film prior called Shithouse, and both.
It's a true story.
Yeah, but both films are title-wise. It's like you watch the film, and at the end of the film, you go, okay, I get why it's called Shithouse, and I know why now it's called Cha Cha Real Smooth. Can you tell us the genesis of the title?
I really love like the idea of both of the movies. At the end, the last scene like blacks out, and then the title comes up at the end with a song playing. And I'm obsessed with the idea of like this title that you really maybe you hated, maybe you couldn't stand or just didn't understand. But then at the end, the feeling of like there's no other title for that movie, and even like Shithouse, it's like damn right. But for Shithouse, it was always just like about like a person in a shitty home. And then for Cha Cha, I say that I wanted it to be big enough to like be a movie about a May-December relationship, but also bar mitzvahs, and it was hard to like find something that was big enough. And also I say that the cha-cha slide, like the part of the cha-cha slide where you do your own dance, is when they say cha-cha real smooth, and it's about the characters learning how to do their own dance, and it's my canned answer.
Yeah, no, I get it. No, I said it's actually a tribute to you that when I saw the title, Cha Cha Real Smooth, I didn't get it, but then I'm watching the film, and then the ending, I go, wow, yeah. It makes total sense. The same thing with Shithouse. Vanessa, working with Dakota, you have such a wonderful rapport. Tell us about working with Dakota Johnson as your mom.
So we met like really briefly, all three of us, for like a coffee in the morning, and that was kind of the first time, like that was the first time I met her in person, and I was very nervous because I felt a pressure for us to be closer, or at least for me to feel comfortable around her, because I knew like that was the only way that their relationship would work. And luckily when we got to set, we did become very close, and we spent all our time together on set, and I felt like she was a person that I could always talk to and not really feel judged by, and we kind of just developed this like very specific type of relationship, sort of like Lola and Domino.
Cooper, the score, I love I mean, of course, you use a lot of songs into the soundtrack, but the score itself, done by S.D. Haim and Chris. Tell us about working with them and the score.
They're great. She's like the funniest person alive, and the producer Ro Donnelly knew Stray, Christopher Stracy, and I had never worked with someone like a composer before. Like my first movie, we just did a bunch of needle drops, and or I actually like got my buddy to like strum a guitar for a few scenes, but it was really I didn't know how to, but the music supervisor Rob was kind of like, you just ask them for 10 tracks and keep asking them for more and more stuff, and if something's sounding right. So it was such a joy. Like I thought that they were just going to do what they were going to do, but they really tried a bunch of different things, and I got to kind of sift through different sounds and figure out what I wanted for the cha-cha sound. It was really lovely to work with them.
And the songs that are included in the soundtrack, were they scripted?
Yes,
that
yeah.
you had planned?
The biggest one was the last song, Tools, by a band called Howdy. I was like, if this song, it has to be this song. If it works, the movie works. And the first time we put it in, I was like, it sucks. No, I was like, it works. It felt great. But a lot of the songs, like I'd say about 5 of the songs in there were scripted, and it felt so good. And I like wrote them in knowing that they were probably cheaper songs than like WAP.
Yeah. Tell us about the mother, the Leslie Mann who plays your mother. What I find fascinating about your film is that normally a lot of the relationships is stuff that in other films will be like the butt of the jokes. Instead, you go in deep with the relationships. Tell us about the
Leslie's the most emotional person ever, other than me, and we're like both basket cases. And like last night, we were out at this event where there was a surprise musical guest who ended up being Diana Ross.
Whoa.
And I looked over, I was like watching, and I was like, just tears streaming down my face, and I look around, and the spotlight was hitting this beautiful mother who was also sobbing, and I was like, oh, I feel so connected to this person, and I was like, Leslie? And it's genuinely Leslie, and I walked over, and I was like, I had to hug my crying mom. She's like that. She just sobs all the time, and so it would have felt silly to make it a silly relationship, because she's a sad person, or cries a lot, and so do I, and so I wanted the scenes to be us crying a lot.
You were going to say something, Vanessa, about Leslie.
I saw the whole thing last night.
She was there, yeah.
Vanessa, what would you like the audience to feel about a character like Lola? I mean, that is presented to us as a wonderful character, but not a lot is made about the fact that she's an autistic character.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want anyone to feel anything specific. I think as long as they're sort of seeing her experience as a person and how she moves through the world as an autistic teenager, I think that's something that's quite important, because that's something that I've experienced, but it's something that people don't typically see in movies, but it's there.
And are you, go ahead, Cooper. You
I
were
was going to say she's so good at answering questions.
Yeah, both of you, you're so like, I mean, blown away by the fact that you're in your 20s and you're a teenager. You're so composed and eloquent, both of you. And Cooper, the idea of you playing the star of the film and writing and producing and directing, was that, tell us about, was that
Walk in the park. Piece of
walk in the
cake.
park?
It's really difficult, but it feels natural because you just lean on everybody else to be co-directors or co-writers or actors with you in the scene. And I think as a director, I really like to be close to the actors. And if I wasn't acting in a scene, I was always right by the camera, and I don't like to be by the monitor because I can't really feel what's going on in the room. And I think the way to be closest to the actors is to actually be in a scene with them. So I like it, and I think that, I think Vanessa and Dakota really liked it, and Leslie, and because you can just kind of workshop the scene with them, and they feel like they are. I would never say cut and then walk or pace for a second and then be like, all right, here are my notes. We kind of does that feel? How does it feel? And how can we make it feel better?
And when you wrote the script, were you always thinking, I'm going to play Andrew?
No, not at all. I wanted someone specific to play the part, and Dakota had seen Shithouse, and I think wanted to have that experience of working with someone who was acting, but then also we could just co-direct together. I think she was interested in that experience, not the very specific person I had in mind to play Andrew. Mm-hmm. I think she thought she was too good for that person.
And it took a lot of arm wrestle, twisting.
No, I mean, I'm not like, no, I don't want to start a movie with you, Dakota. It wasn't like that. I blushed when she said, I want you to play Andrew. I was like, me? So it wasn't it was not an arm wrestle whatsoever.
And tell us about the relationship. It's so unique, the relationship with your younger brother, which you guys have a big gap. How did that come about? And
I have a 7-year gap with my youngest sister, and it's very much based on that relationship where I horribly don't treat her like she is a full, very emotional, sensitive person sometimes. And I'm blown away in moments where she'll say something or she'll feel something and articulate it, and I'll be like, oh my God, you're feeling the exact same things that I'm feeling, and maybe deeper and more fully realized. And that scene at the end is a moment that, not in the same way, but it's happened so many times with her where I'm like, oh gosh, I did not realize that is how you feel and move through the world. And we're siblings, and so we have a lot of shared experience, and you've had to go through a lot of the same things that I've had to go through with our parents, and I thought you were this little kid who would need to grow up to kind of have the anger that I do or have the whatever that I do, but instead of anger, you're just open to it, and that's a really specific. I love her very much, and I loved the actor who played David, Evan. He's so open, and you feel so protective of people like that because it's oh gosh, you're gonna get slapped around. But yeah.
And Vanessa, circling back to the fact that he's the director, the producer, and writer, and he stars in it, what was it from your vantage point, the fact that you have your director and he's also your co-star with the film?
I don't know, because this was my first movie, so I don't have anything to base it off of. So that's my version of normal. Having a director that doesn't act in the movie would be abnormal. So, but I did like it because it felt like we were all on the same page. There was no disconnect. I tend to need very specific and very literal instructions, and it can be pretty specific because we were both in the scene together at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And the scenes, it was so heartbreaking, the scenes where you're being bullied by the other kids. Was that something that was difficult for you to navigate?
The scene?
Yeah.
Not really, because that's not I mean, the way that, like, that's like a very external way to like demonstrate the way that people bully, but that's not really how it is and how I've experienced it. But I think that's the easiest way to demonstrate it in like a movie type of setting.
Cooper, Brad Garrett, that plays your stepdad. It's such a complex character. On the surface, we think that he's just gonna be a doofus, a dick, but there's more layers to him. Can you tell us about writing and also working with Brad?
Brad's the worst. He's genuinely the funniest person of all time. He's like, we had a saying, he likes to improvise and he's like likes to go big and likes to try things, and right away we developed this shorthand where after a scene he would look at me and go, "Little less mustard?" And I'd say, "Little less mustard, yes." But he, I don't know, I love Stepdad Greg so much, and I always thought of him as this person who Andrew comes back from college and is like, "Wait, I'm her husband, what are you doing here?" But he is great for her in a lot of ways, and I think that like in that car scene, Andrew sees him in a different light, not necessarily like, oh, all of a sudden I see who Stepdad Greg is. It's just like you see him as someone who can provide and protect in the way that maybe Andrew did before.
And what was it like for the two of you that the film premieres at Sundance and big hit, audience award winner, and the big sell?
Yeah, hells yeah. How was it?
We didn't go to Sundance.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You guys didn't.
It was virtual.
Oh.
Yeah, it got canceled, so that didn't happen. But we were in our pajamas, and like our Sundance experience was our phones. We were on Twitter. We were like, "You see Twitter?"
Yeah, we did like a Twitter check together on the day. Yeah.
But then we went to South by in Austin. That's where we like had our first premiere of it, and that was a really fun experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it must have been joyous to have won the audience award at Sundance, and
yeah, it was. Audiences, we'd make them for the audience.
yeah. And what's next? What are you working on?
What are you working on?
I've just been auditioning, but I haven't.
You've been writing some? Oh, we're not telling people? You haven't been writing anything. I lied. I just started a company called Small Ideas, and we're brewing up some projects. But yeah, I don't know what's next.
Okay, you're being tight-lipped about it. Yeah. Well, thank you for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much.
No,
Thank you,
you
guys.
so much. What an honor.